Hello, everyone. I have just come home from London, and I created the full moon video in Hungarian for my Hungarian audience because the schedule there is a little bit different than here. And now we are going to look at the Taurus full moon in London, which is a very different chart actually, although the fact remains that the sun moon opposition, the full moon, has almost no aspects. In this case, when the luminaries don't have any aspects, those that are there are kind of highlighted, are kind of elevated, and they are getting more emphasis. So we are going to look at it as well. Let's take a look at the London chart. And I gave the title Wisdom Infused Life Watering Times for many reasons. And this could be true for any full moon anywhere on this particular day. So any full Taurus full moon anywhere on Earth, because you will have the same placements actually, except for the house placements and the celestial objects getting on the angles. And that is what makes this particular chart really different from, for instance, the Budapest chart. It's going to be exact, the full moon is going to be exact on November the 5th at 13:19 London time, a little after noon, which means you won't be able to see the full moon in its exact moment, only when the sun is going down, which will probably be around 6 o'clock. I haven't checked the date, the time for this date when the sunrise and sunset are going to be exact. Anyhow, but the fact remains that the sun will go down and the moon will come up a little bit later than usual, since the exact time is at a little bit after noon and not exactly at sunset. If you take a look at the London chart, we have an Aquarius rising, which is quite rare in itself. Aquarius is a fast moving rising sign. So is Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. They come up quite quickly, and then the next sign is coming up. Whereas on the opposite side, Leo, Virgo, and Libra are the slowest moving signs. So when you take a look, when you want statistics, you will find that a lot more Virgo and Leo risings and Libra risings are there than Aquarius, Pisces, or Aries. So that's a rare ascendant, and it has Pallas Athena on the ascendant. Now, Pallas Athena is the goddess of wisdom. This is the second asteroid to be spotted. It was spotted actually in 1802, and she got the name, the Greek name for the wisdom goddess. All the other traditional planetary names are usually they are actually the Roman. We don't call Jupiter Zeus. We don't call Venus Aphrodite. We don't call Mars Ares or Aries. We use the word usually the name for the Latinized version, and here this particular object did not get the name of the Roman version, only the Greek. And this suggests that Pallas Athena is not just the object for wisdom, because Minerva, the Roman counterpart, is, but also Athena is saving Athens. So she's the protector of of Athens. So she has a double function, and she is rising on the ascendant, creating wisdom of the space-time moment. Actually, she likes being in Aquarius because Aquarius is a cerebral, it's an air sign. But also protection will be there. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Mercury is on the midheaven. So there's another wisdom object, another knowledge object, although the difference between Pallas Athena and Mercury are quite marked, because Mercury simply is everyday discourse. It doesn't really contain any wisdom. And of course, Mercury is also Hermes. The Greek version of it is more linked to magic and hermetic sciences like astrology, and mischief, whereas Mercury is just everyday discourse and learning and education and how you express yourself in writing or in or verbally. And this particular Mercury, which is spot on the midheaven, is also at the midpoint of the Mars Juno. So that's an interesting thing because Mars is fighting, it's the war energy, and Juno is reconciliation, negotiations, covenants, pacts, all kinds of contracts. So that's quite interesting that we are at a space-time moment when the English government really should decide either or. And the problem is that the English government, and actually England became now the seat for the hidden financial power, the city and England itself. And Starmer is a perfect servant for this particular power. And of course, with the Orange Man in the White House, the power moved from the United States to England, and that is what you see in their policy. They don't care for the subject. They don't care for the everyday person in England. They can go to hell. They can starve to death. They can freeze to death in their own homes. He doesn't care. The government doesn't care. That is why they push money and arms and non-existent money to the Ukrainians to continue the war, because that is what the financial power wants us to do. And this is a dilemma that the English government and actually the English people really should be able to resolve. I don't know whether it's going to be, but that's what it is. So it's an interesting midpoint. Now, here's the full moon, and there's almost no aspects. The Budapest chart has two novices. Interestingly enough, the MCIC angle makes novices to the luminaries. So there we have one more pair more than you guys. And it's only Jupiter and Neptune that makes aspect. And quite interestingly, if you, for instance, do medieval astrology, where you only have the 5 so-called Ptolemaic aspects, the main aspects. You don't have either semi or sesqui quadrate, and you also don't have the quintile series. And both are, I believe, for the quintile series for sure, were prepared or created by Johannes Kepler, the astronomer, astrologer, mathematician. So this is what you have here. On the one hand, this is doubly dissolving the tension of the full moon. And the full moons are always about completion, ripening, harvesting. Something comes into fruition and you are able to pick it and also live with the results, live with the consequences. And here this is doubly dissolved by both Jupiter and Neptune. There's a very, very, very wide trine between Jupiter and Neptune. It is actually applying, so you could, if you want to use 10 degrees, you may use it, or maybe 6, 7 degrees. I never use two wide objects, or simply because we work with so many more objects. So one is the semi-square sesquiquadrate by Neptune. And this particular semi-square is the two objects are both in water signs. So it's actually, this particular one works like a trine, an energized trine. In karmic astrology, the sesquiquadrate represents energies, actions, issues that we have been working for or to resolve in the past. And now we might get a chance to resolve it, especially when the sesquiquadrate is in the same elements. And this is it. And also the semi-square between the moon and Neptune is about, it's actually in the semi-square would be an action-packed minor aspect, but it is in sextile energies. So it gives you more potentials than strife. And I just finished a workshop in London on clairvoyance. And it's funny because Neptune is linked to both clairvoyance and clairaudience. Clairaudience with the moon, clairvoyance with the sun. So really, we should be able to get some insight into the things that have been hidden from us during this particular full moon. Full moons are always also about illumination anyway. And the other pair, by Jupiter. And you may remember that Jupiter enlarges everything it touches, is a quintile to the moon and a tridecile to the sun. The quintile simply means ingeniousness, while the tridecile is talent and ingeniousness manifesting through altered states of consciousness. So you need to be high, high up there, either through meditation or some substance, which I don't recommend for sure. Okay, so that's it. Let's take a look at the transcendental celestial objects. And as usual, I color-coded them for you. The magenta ones are asteroids, which denote, which are linked to the personal karmic level. Blue is for TNOs, centaurs, SDOs, anything trans-Neptunian, which we call centaurs, simply because we give them a label that is easier for reference. And these objects, trans-Neptunians or centaurs, are always describing our karmic wounds, which can take two turns. Either they become some kind of phobia, or they become some interesting or unique trait, behind or below which there's always the pain. So whatever was very painful and become out of it successfully, conquer it, is always more valuable than just an ordinary talent, which may or may not manifest. So that is the so-called trans-Neptunians or centaurs. And then you have with the red, these are fixed stars. Stars are not from the everyday human experience because they are not part of the solar system. They are out there in the universe, so they are usually linked to higher dimensional energies, traits, potentials, which we learn. The soul can migrate there, of course, without a physical body, but it's very difficult to utilize their energies down here in the third dimension. That is why when you have an older book on fixed stars, you get all kinds of negative connotations, negative delineations. And I always say that fixed stars are higher, much higher energies than the Earth plane. So they can't really behave in a bad way. We may utilize them badly, that's for sure. But other than that, I don't think we should really concentrate on what is good. Okay, so on the sun, you have Sirius, Memoria, Zulong, and Alphecca. Cyrus was one of the first rulers in Persia. Actually, he created the Persian Empire, and he was a very, very peacey ruler because he believed in equality. He believed he abolished slavery. He also abolished the death penalty. So he was a very modern thinker, and actually, as a result, he is like a forefather for communists, for instance. But the fact remains, the just ruling. That's what it means in karmic astrology. Memory means that we should remember our past. Isn't it interesting that there are some European countries where they don't teach history anymore? They don't want you to learn about it. And memoria means learning from your mistakes, remembering things. Zulong and Alphecca, I'm going to show you in a minute who they are and what they are. On the moon, you have Victoria, victory, and Ziba, which is Zeta Eridanus. Eridanus is a very long constellation. It's actually the biggest constellation. It's the river, the celestial river, which sets out around the belt stars of Orion, so very close to the celestial equator, and goes all the way down to the south poles. The brightest star of Eridanus is Alphecca, which is not Alphecca, sorry. Okay, it doesn't matter. Ziba is right around where it sets out. So it's the quest where you set off and you leave your equilibrium. You want to achieve something for which you need to suffer through many trials and tribulations. And the whole Eridanus shows you the different stages. And Zibal is at the early stages of your trials and tribulations. So there's victory, but you need to suffer a little bit more or strive at least. And on Neptune, you have Shat, which is Beta Pegasus, the first healing word for suicide victims. Here's Alphecca, the star of feminine happiness. There are two stars around 12 degrees Scorpio. One is slightly closer to 12 degrees, and Alphecca is slightly closer to 13 degrees. And Alphecca is to the north. It's the northern crown, after all. And Crux, which is Alpha Crux, is down south. You won't be able to see it from London or from anywhere from the northern hemisphere because it's almost at the South Pole. And crux is the crust of matter, how you accept it, how you accept the human body and this 3D reality, while Alphecca provides the feminine happiness. Think about the garland that they used to put on during the wedding. This is what the bride used to wear, and it expressed her happiness of the time and day. So Alphecca always represents the whole constellation. Northern Crown, Corona Borealis, expresses this type of feminine happiness. So these two stars are very close to each other in the longitude, but very, very far away from each other in actual position in the sky. And this is now what is on the sun. So we should really enjoy this type of energy. And then Zulong, which is TNO, it has an orbit of 420 years. So it's an outer Kuiper belt object. The name means low or brilliance in Chinese. And in Chinese mythology, this is a colossal red fire dragon. It has a human face and the snake's body, and it is really a torch energy. And by opening and closing its eyes, it creates the day and night. And also its breath, its breathing creates the winds. So it's an elemental energy, and it is very much linked to human existence, while fire is the element of transformation. So the karmic astrological delineation for this is illumination, creativity, perception, and recognition. And the motto is create through fire and your own abilities. That is what Zulong represents. And if we think about illumination, this particular full moon might create for us some kind of illumination, which we might then appreciate. There's also a complex planetary picture at the very beginning and end of the signs. Mars has just moved into Sag, so did Australia a couple of days ago. Pluto has been in Aquarius for quite a while. It just turned direct. Neptune went back to Pisces, so this is going to be Pisces and Venus are out of this energy pattern because they're both at the end of the signs. Neptune is also anoretic, very anoretic, but Venus is not anoretic. It's 28 degrees 16. It is moving into anoretic position next day after the full moon, and then it moves into Scorpio. So, and then partly this dissociation is going to be dissolved in a way. And as you can see, Pluto and Sedna are making their last trine right at this, during this particular full moon. Here you can see the positions, and actually I did not enumerate or list, I haven't listed the configurations because they're sometimes out of sign and sometimes out of energy. For instance, the Yod, here's the finger of fate. The bidirectional quincunx from Neptune to Venus is exact, both by energy and actually by degree. But Sedna and Uranus are still in Gemini. Sedna will remain in Gemini, although it's now retrograde. And Uranus is, look at Uranus, it's at 0 degrees 6 minutes, which means in 2 days it's moving back into Taurus and will be there for 4 months, at least 4 months. I will have to check that, but you can also check it, of course. So that is a Yod, which is out of sign. There's also here's the square between Venus and Pluto. And if you take a look, Venus is still in Libra, Pluto is already in Aquarius. So this is a square which has a trine energy. So it's very different from a normal square because it gives you, it's a high impact trine, so to speak. And the rest, if you take just a look at the participating objects, and you can see Venus is about harmony, love, money, and well-being. Mars is the action and fighting. Australia is the karma breaker. Pluto is power and transformation. Neptune is dreams and transcendence. Uranus is change, disruption, chaos, and freedom. And Sedna is creation through dissection. And that's the energy which is there, but it's sometimes out of signs, with Venus and Neptune out of signs of the rest. But at least this bidirectional quincunx is true. So actually, Venus and its higher octave Neptune can work quite well for love and happiness and harmony. Let's hope that this is going to happen. Here are the transcendental celestial objects. There's a lot of fixed stars moved in this picture, so it's quite very strong. There's a strong higher dimensional energy in this particular full moon, so that is why we have hope that this can be worked for something else. Venus has Helio, which is the sun god, and Spartacus, which is the revolting slave. Spartacus has it carries the idea that if I have nothing to lose, but my situation is so horrible that I need to revolt. That is when most of the revolts are happening, not the revolutions. That's different. Revolutions are always man-made, always fueled, always actually fueled by money and also by ideology. Spartacus represents something else. It represents a situation which is so hopeless that I need to revolt. And Venus is our well-being. And if I look, well, actually, I spoke to many people now that I was in England, and a lot of people are very unhappy about what is happening to their lives, how the government is taking away not just their freedom, which is something that you have all across the board everywhere if you look around, but also their well-being. And England used to be really rich, and the people used to live well. I remember when I went to England first, it was sometime in 82, I believe. I won a scholarship to Worcester, and I was there for 2 months. And I was amazed how nice the people were, how smiley they were, how they were kind and nice to each other. And then now, as I was walking in London, I saw many beggars. First of all, almost every corner there's a beggar, and people are nasty. People are. I mean, they blow the horn all the time. They're simply they're all kinds of quarrels in the streets. I think it shows the overall deterioration of the spirit, and that is not very nice. And that is when revolts are happening. Anyhow, Mars is on Ceto, toxic emotions, and Toliman, which is the alpha star of Centaur, and it's the main healing word for Chiron issues. On Uranus Sedna, you have the Pleiades, the home of the creator goddess. So there's a goddess energy infused in the space-time moment. On Neptune, you have Sheat, which is Beta Pegasus, which is the main healing word for suicide victims. And on Pluto, have you Moira, the goddesses of fate, and Altair, which is Alpha Aquila, which is one of the shaman stars. And on Australia, you have Avicenna, which is Ibn Sina's Latinized name. He was a polymath and a doctor, a physician, who was trying to heal. And quite interestingly, Sinistra, which is Nu Ophiuchus, is also linked to healing. We are going to take a look at it in a minute. Here's Ophiuchus, or it's also called Serpentarius. And the serpent, the serpent is the only constellation that is broken into two parts, head and tail. And as you can see, Sinistra is the left hand. It's actually, the way it's shown is the right hand, really. But anyhow, it's the left hand. Sinistra means left. And it holds the serpent's tail. And it usually symbolizes alternative healing, because Ophiuchus or Serpentarius is the healer. And Ras Al-Hago is always about healing through the mind, because everything starts in the mind, really. All your problems and all your happiness as well. If you can make yourself be happy, simply by noticing the nice things in your life, you're going to be much happier than when you're just brooding and counting your sorrows and whatever. And Sinistra usually is prominent whenever alternative medication or alternative medicine is required. So that is the Sinistra. Okay. And what is also interesting in this particular full moon, as I said, is that we are at the last trine between Sedna and Pluto. It started 2 years ago, still in Earth signs, and Pluto was at the end of Capricorn, and Sedna was ready to move into Gemini, and the last trine was also in air signs, but there was a trine in an energetic trine in earth signs, and now it's in air. And earth means earthy reality, 3D reality. Pluto is power and transformation. Sedna is dissection and creation through dissection. And the world was at the brink of getting dissected, reoriented. Well, there's a power struggle at the moment. There's a shift in the power. Again, a world shift, a power shift that's always very disruptive. We're living during very, very disruptive times. And Pluto and Sedna were not able to perform their transformation, really. We were not able to utilize the energy because it was stuck, because it was in an energetic degree, and now it's in air signs at the very beginning of air signs, 1.5 degrees. So there is this huge push to have some different ideologies, something that is more down to earth, logical, rational, not the woke idiocy that we have seen in the last 10 years. It's the whole thing is so ridiculous. I have many friends who consider themselves liberals. One of my best friends is a liberal. One of my ex students and friends who when she saw, I believe she saw what's happening in the world and to her liberal ideals, simply lifted herself off the group and never came back. And I believe one reason was because she could not tolerate the fact, like my other friend, who is very liberal, who has been very liberal all her life, simply told me that I have, quote, brainwashed her because I am so rational and I can highlight things for her in such a rational way that she had to concede, she had to give in, and now she's no longer as liberal as she used to be, and she wants to be more rational. And this is what's happening all across the board. That those people who consider themselves liberals realize that they long for the all liberal ideas. Yes, so do I, because to see, for instance, what's happening to women, that first we have been fighting for our rights, equal rights, for the last 40, 50, 80 years. And all of a sudden it has been taken away by the trans people from us. It's ridiculous if you consider that. So we need to have a reset, not a global reset as of the World Economic Forum tries us to do, but some kind of ideological reset. And I believe that the Pluto Sedna trine is I'm just hoping that the Pluto Saturn trine provides such an energy, because as Bernard Brady so many times says, in forecasting, trines mean friction, movement without friction. So something is all the obstacles are taken away and something is happening very fast. So this revolution, ideological revolution, could happen very fast. All of a sudden, we could say, you know what, let's go back to normalcy. Let's go back to common sense. And there's also a crown forming, if we take a look at what is there still at this particular moment with the rest of the planets, we can say that Mars is there, definitely. And on Mars, there's Saturn and Toliman, as we looked at it. Interestingly, on Libra 1 degree, you have Sisyphus, which is a very interesting archetype. He cheated death twice, and that is why his punishment is to put to carry this huge rock to the top of the mountain of Tartarus. And by the time he gets there, it goes down again, and he needs to take it again. So it's a futility. It's usually in karmic astrology, it is the futility energy that we link to Sisyphus, but also because the reason is very interesting, because he cheated death twice. And can you cheat death? I don't think so. If you are a living person in the third dimension, you will lose your physical body, and it's physical death. And that is what Sisyphus represents. It's futile to go against something which is a natural law. We are talking about natural law again. And there's Kagara, a North African archetype who is fighting to get back his wife. He's helped by the wife's brother, and they use the elements, and they use the weather elements like hail and winds and whatever to get it. And there's the supergalactic center, one of the key celestial areas in the cosmic astrology, which represents the notion of nothing is ever enough. And then opposite it is Borasisi, the tyrant, one of the tyrant centaurs. And on Sedna and Uranus, you have the Pleiades. So that's what it is. And this particular full moon, I think that's what it is. So happy full moon, and try to consider on fruition. And Taurus is always about our well-being, and of course Scorpio is about our darkest and most deepest emotions. So that's what it is. Happy full moon. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.